Well guys, another day, another sitting in traffic and running errands. So today I gotta head to DTM Auto Body. I've never been there before, to pick up Damon's old parts from the Mercy from his build. So it's the bumper and the headlights. And the headlights I gotta be really careful with because they're worth a ton of money, and I'll talk about that a little later once we get there. I don't know what's going on, but now we're in dead stop traffic. We're moving now a couple miles an hour. So I just got to DTM Auto Body, and it looks like they got some cool stuff going on here. It looks like that's Eric's car, actually. Funny enough. But I'm gonna go inside, try to meet who I can, I think, and get these parts loaded into the van. I don't know what happened on the freeway. Once we passed all that traffic, it was gone. But yeah, I don't know who I'm supposed to meet because I think the owner is on a rally today. So I just got the parts picked up from DTM Auto Body. They helped me load it in, and they had already wrapped the headlights professionally, and it's all safe and secure. But before I leave, let me show you what they got in this room that basically all their finished and cool show cars are at, and they got some pretty cool stuff. We got really sick 991 wide body. Not sure what model it is. Sick. And then they got this wide body NSX, which was at the block party the other night, and I didn't really get too close of a look at it. I know it's twin turbo, and it's exposed in the back, so that's pretty cool. We got 4 tips, downpipes, and then I'm assuming these are the wastegates. That's pretty cool, really clean. And then we got an RWB 997, I believe. Yes. Really clean, really cool color. Pastel. Another clean 997. And then something that was tucked away that I saw before I left and is really cool is they have a Veyron front end up there. That's probably worth a lot of money. And then there's this purple Astrovan. Interesting. And then also Eric's car is here. Man, that thing is really torn apart. Some other cool stuff that they got in their work in progress area where the Mercy was built. They got this cool Velsai Fortune FD that they're working on. A little Tokyo Drift, you know, reminiscent of nostalgia. Wide wheels with big lip. And then they got a 991 cup car, like an actual cup car. That's cool. There's a fuel cell, carbon fiber. I wonder what this is in for. Well, I see some damage there. And then they also have this Varis wide body Supra. That's cool. I really like the Varis kit on the Supra. It's actually looks really good. Let's see if I can show you the front end real quick. I'm assuming that's the old front bumper, which looks like a Velsai front bumper. Very cool. And then the boys, before they had to go back to work, showed me that they have a Gen 2 MR2 that's wide body. It does not run, so I was like, maybe it's the same issue as mine where it had an issue with the ECU or the distributor. Yeah, they got some cool stuff here, and they said that they had some cooler stuff here, but a lot of it got sent out to SEMA this weekend. So they told me about like they built they did the bodywork on a GR86 that has the GR Corolla drivetrain and powertrain. So not just the engine swap of the 3-cylinder turbo, but it's also all-wheel drive, which is really crazy. So I gotta check that out. So made it back to the shop. Everything went well. Thanks to the guys over at DTM for showing me around and letting me film. But I got another mission to go on now. So now I got to go pick up the title for Mia's 911. It is still at the dealership. It was being processed, so time to head on another faraway journey during rush hour. But let's get going. So I just finished up at J-Star. I got the title all situated. They have some pretty cool stuff in there, so I'm pretty sure you guys seen it all when Damon, Mia, and Dave were here, but they got like a Testarossa in there, a Huracan, not sure what model, and then there's a Gallardo outside. They got some cool stuff here. It was really quick, just grabbed the title real quick, and now to go back and sit in some more traffic. Another day, another parts run slash delivery slash pickup or something of the sort, and gotta deliver this Valvetronic exhaust tip for Damon's car because one of them got smashed, if you guys remember. So we're gonna head over to Evans and drop this off so they can basically finish up the looks of the car. And I don't think I can actually show you guys the car, but maybe I'll give you guys a little teaser. So I just dropped off the tip with Evan, and I got a good look at the 599, Damon's 599, and man, that blue looks really good, and the car is now basically all back together. They're just buffing it and installing little trim pieces and stuff, and they got some other little bits that they're planning to put on, but it already looks so good. It looks so much better than when it was black or red, to be honest. Like, that color on a Ferrari looks insane. Guys, so I just came to O'Reilly's real quick to get some parts, but on the street that I turned down, there's cops, and it looks like the SWAT team is here. Hold on, I'm gonna show you guys real quick. I don't know what's going on over there, but I need to get some oil. Yeah, I don't know what's going on over there, but let's not go that way. Let's have a normal day for once. Well, that was a much more eventful trip than I had planned, and on my way back, there was a fan in a Pathfinder. I was gonna come out to say hi, but you had already left. So sorry, I was running stuff in and out, but I would have said hi. On this thing, so yesterday, the tuner Shane and I basically went through a bunch of functions on the keypad, set things up, and now a lot of things are working. We had left a note for him on this fan that we never seen it come on in the time of running it because the car never got over 180 degrees Fahrenheit. So it was staying cool, but only this fan was coming on. It would come on at low speed at like 150, 160-ish, and then it would ramp up high speed at like 170, and it would basically keep it around there. So yesterday, I just had him check to make sure that one was working and set up in the program. And then we just reprogrammed it so that it would come on so that we know it comes on. So basically now this one comes on the same where it's low speed at like 160-ish. And then once this hits about 170, high 170s, this one comes down and it cools down the car so fast. Like it gets from 179 to like 165 in under 10 seconds, which is insane because all we have in the system right now is actually just distilled water. We don't even have any like coolant or coolant additive like a water wetter or anything in it yet because we still have to finish the turbo water lines, which the parts for the AN fittings are still not here. So I don't know what's going on with that. I know Mike ordered them, but I don't have a tracking or anything, and Mike's, I don't know if he has cell phone service. He's out of the country. So some things we set up basically are now basically things function. So the boost light, all the boost settings are set up and they light up accordingly. And it's also on the dash now, right there. So hit it again, and then now gone. Then also we set up the function for anti-lag. It's obviously not tuned yet because we're gonna do that on the dyno, but the command is on now for the ECU. And basically all the buttons work, the lights work. Oh, this is cool. So we now have tail lights, which is cool. And then there's another feature actually with the tail lights. So I'll shut this off and then I will put you guys right here. So when I command the power back on, you should be able to see this. Okay, stay. So now, every time you power the car on, it does that. And that is Morse code that Shane has set up. I'll let you guys figure out what it is before I tell you, so you guys can comment down below what it means, if you know what it is, or take guesses of what that is. So basically, we got a bunch done programming-wise, and then we also found out another issue. So basically, Shane came here, he was gonna clean up the tune a bunch, and he did do some tweaks, but we basically got the cam timing to work on this side of the motor. But again, we're having issues on this side of the motor where now the timing is correct at 0. However, when we command the actual solenoids for the variable valve, the VTEC as we call, it is not working. So it's either the cam gear actuator or the actual solenoids on the oil block that pushes the oil into the cam gear, which is sounding more likely because yesterday Shane found a way to manually command the solenoids on that side to come on and they would click. So then we tried to do the same thing on this side and they weren't clicking. So we're about 99.5% sure that the solenoids are bad, but I'm not sure if you can just replace the solenoids on this car or if you have to buy that whole block together because it's all one piece. So it's looking like it's not the actual cam gears, which is good, so we don't have to take out the motor again. But yeah, so some little issues here and some parts still haven't shown up, but we'll get this thing going and get it ready for the dyno. What else did we do? Oh, we also set up the gear position. So now it actually does have a functioning gear position. So pull back on this thing and 1. And yes, it works for every gear, including reverse. So that's really cool. We're basically still setting up, there's still a ton to set up, but a lot of the tedious stuff has been set up, or Shane has taken note of it and he's gonna set up on his computer for when he comes to the dyno. That way we don't have to sit on the dyno for like 2 hours before we even start rolling the wheels. And then you guys might have also seen all this stuff out right now and you're wondering what's going on in the shop. Are we moving out? No, we're not moving out. But Guy was asked by Damon and Dave, and Mike and I were kind of asked a while ago, but we were just too busy. But basically we're getting a bunch of stuff organized to basically see what we have and then list a bunch of stuff for sale. So there's gonna be a ton of stuff that's gonna come up, like maybe old 720 parts that will be available if you guys wanna buy it. Oh, and I forgot to mention that while we were testing the valve, variable valve, trying to get it to move, Shane was also able to turn off the rev limiter to like basically hear how the car's running and how the engine's running. And he took the rev limiter off and he revved it to 7,000, which nobody has heard except for me, not even Damon, Dave, or Mike. Dude, this thing sounds super sick. I'm so sorry that we were busy yesterday and I didn't record it, but man, this thing really does sound like a V12 once it opens up. And I guess everybody will just have to wait now until it goes to the dyno. Another really cool thing working with Shane yesterday, man, I really should have filmed this, but he told me a really cool story. So before I get into the story, like the reason that we trusted Greg, the wiring guy, and Shane to help us out on this project is because they've done V12 Ferrari motors before. So before this project, Greg had wired and Shane had tuned basically this same engine family model, the F140, except they did an FF motor, which got put into a wooden boat, which is crazy. I mean, it was NA, but still, like, you're putting a V12 Ferrari motor into a boat. That's wild. And then before that, they had done a twin turbo Ferrari Enzo that they used for top speed racing, it was Bonneville, which is insane. Like, so Shane was telling me the story about that customer yesterday, and it was kind of like mind-boggling, because it's like a story you don't really hear, and I should have filmed it, but we had too much going on. So basically the gist of the story is the guy, very affluent dude, he bought a Ferrari Enzo brand new, and he was basically doing the DDE thing. He was driving it as a street car, which is insane. So he was driving it he lives in Park City, Utah, and he worked in Salt Lake City, so he was driving it to and from work every day. And the car ended up having like 33,000 miles, and there was a charity event. Shane told me the name, but I cannot remember it. But there was a charity event where a bunch of people would take their cars onto this like canyon road, and there was like a stretch like that was straight in the desert once you got over the canyons, and the cops would sit there with the speed gun, and basically you would go for a top speed, and the higher your top speed, the bigger the fine, and the fine would go to charity, right? So instead of you paying like an actual fine, you pay that fine, but the money goes to charity. Really cool idea, really awesome that they're doing that. But so the reason that car got built was he ended up hitting like 203, I think Shane said, and the road was really bumpy. So the car came over like a rolling hill, and when it came up, it lifted the car up, and it like flipped and like did like the whole Le Mans thing where it basically flipped on its back, smacked down, and broke the car apart. And basically like the engine was laying in the desert, and like the whole Enzo was destroyed, which is insane. Like a one of 399, I think, were made, just destroyed in the desert, which is crazy, right? So the dude went to the hospital. He had a broken neck, and he ended up wanting to, once he got out of the hospital, he wanted to get back on the horse, which is very admirable, right? So he ended up like going to Ferrari and asking them, hey, could you repair the tub? Could you sell me parts for like body panels for an Enzo? And obviously the answer was no. So the dude went to Shane and was like, hey, I want to build this crazy car because I can't put it back to stock anymore anyways. Do you know some people? Like, I want to build this motor, I want to put body panels on it and all this. And Shane didn't believe him, so Shane was like, okay, send me the motor by X date, and then send this money, wire to me so I know you're serious. And then Shane said within a week, the money had showed up, and there was a truck backing up to his garage with the engine in it. And he was like, well, I guess I have to figure this out now. So him and Greg ended up wiring the car and basically speccing the motor, because the motor was insane. So it's like titanium rods, all this stuff. So Shane decided, let's not build the motor, let's add turbos and see how much you can handle before it breaks, because it was a really insane engine. So they end up putting turbos on it, wiring it, and lucky enough, they met another guy that had an Enzo also, but he went off to go get like a one-off body made, so he had all the panels for an Enzo, which is crazy, right? So they ended up getting all the panels for an Enzo that they need, and the owner of the car found like a rocket company or something out in Utah that specialized in making carbon fiber rockets. So they were able to repair the carbon tub of the Enzo. This story is just insane. So then they repair the tub, they bolt on like a new front end, new rear end, and then Shane and Greg build the motor, put the wiring in, and then they're still using the stock transmission. And Shane was telling me that it was a pain because that's the old like electric hydraulic transmission that like is super complicated. So
it's a Motec car, but they ended up having to use a stock ECU to control the transmission and running a piggyback onto the Motec in order to control the engine, which is insane. So they end up finishing the car, everything's good. They go to Bonneville. It ends up breaking the record for the class. Like, I don't remember how fast he said it went. It was either high 200s or low 300s miles an hour, not kilometers, miles an hour. And then he basically beat the record and retired the car. So that's freaking insane. So that's a crazy build right there. That is a hypercar before hypercars, and it got crashed and turned into a race car.
All right, well, I am back, and we actually have got the F12 timing or cam adjuster issue all sorted out. So it was just the solenoids were stuck for some reason. So we went through the whole system, checked it, pinned it out back to the ECU, just confirmed that all of that was working properly, and that all looked good. So then we just basically put power and ground to the 2 pins and clicked it. And at first it was a little bit sticky, but then it freed up really quick.
Maybe like sitting over the year.
Yeah, while it was torn apart.
Or when the water, probably not when the water got into it.
I mean, the other side was working fine.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, pretty odd.
Just sitting out for so long.
Yeah, I mean, obviously everything got cleaned. So maybe this one didn't get cleaned as well, and there was still some oil in there keeping it lubricated, and the other one got cleaned really well, and it just had that little bit of like mineral deposit from the water, or whatever it was that was sticking them closed, but it's operational now. We checked it all out, we fired it up, ran it, looked at the data, and both the cams move and follow the tracking basically. So you have the command of what the ECU is telling it to do, and then you have the trace of what it's actually doing, and it's working now. So all that is good to go. So now we're moving forward with some just some other detail stuff to get everything dialed in and ready for the dyno. So currently we're actually pulling off the turbo compressor housings because I want to get rid of this fitting and put the like a 90-degree fitting on here, kind of like these, but with a 90. So that way we can run the plumbing nice and tidy down. And then same thing here. So this is the kind of blow off valve basically that's internal. So as it gets pressure and once it gets vacuum on this side, it opens it up and lets the compressor surge back out into the housing rather than dumping it out into the atmosphere. So it's all self-contained. It's really clean and tidy. But with those covers, they're plastic, and all you can put on there is a rubber hose. So we can't use the Teflon tube all the way through. So we've got these new pieces here from Full Race. So this is the same thing, it's just billet aluminum. And we've got this where it's threaded. They come with these fittings, but we're not gonna use those. We're gonna use the same plug-in Teflon type fitting. So we'll have those at a 90-degree coming out of there as well. And that way we can put heat shield over the entire line all the way up to the edge. Everything's gonna look really clean, and also we're gonna eliminate the need for the rubber hoses here and the kinks that can happen. And obviously these have to connect somehow, so it's just zip ties, not super tidy. And I also ordered the heat shield sleeve that's gonna go over all of these. So all of those lines that you can see right now, we'll get that black silicone covering that has a fiberglass insulation inside. So that'll help even raise the temperature melting point on those lines even more, so they should last a long time. And another thing I want to do is clock the wastegate, because these two are coming out at different angles and that one's coming out at the same angle. So that one looks pretty good. I might also rotate them in more so it just points in and the hoses aren't quite as I don't know, kinked. They're not kinked, but they're just kind of pulled a little tight. So we'll just kind of do all that kind of fine tuning stuff. Got some other heat shielding stuff so we can put some gold foil on some of the other parts of the chassis that might get hot. Any oil lines, any water lines, basically anything that might get hot from obviously this insane monster. There's a lot of exhaust on this car and it's all under the hood. So we really have to be sure that we can manage all of that heat properly. One of the things that we are going to put gold foil on is the intake or the compressor housing outlets here, because it's pretty close to the exhaust. So we'll actually wrap some gold foil around here and create that heat barrier so that this tube doesn't get excessively hot. Obviously, the compressor housing, it's compressing the air, it is heating it up, and that's the whole point of an intercooler. The air gets hot from being compressed, the intercooler cools it all down, but if we can avoid any outside heat sources, any radiation of heat getting on those two, then the intake temps will already be lower, and then once it goes through the intercooler, it'll drop it back down, hopefully close to ambient temperature. That's what you hope for. It's usually 15 or 20 degrees higher, depending on airflow across the car. But the colder that the intake air temp charge is, the better the engine's gonna run, the more power it's gonna make, because colder air is denser air, meaning there is more oxygen in the same amount of space. So more oxygen, we can add a little more fuel and make a little more power. That's the goal here. Make a lot of power, and man, this thing sounds good too. So looking forward to getting this thing on the dyno real soon. We made some good progress. So we've got all these lines that look like a mess right now, but when I put them down in their position, it's gonna look pretty good. Also, I have the black silicone covering coming, so that's all gonna go on hopefully tomorrow. And I got the wastegates clocked in the right direction. I didn't end up putting them pointing more towards each other, because then it makes the lines really short. So I kind of like the longer line after all. Just gives it a little bit more flexibility and reduces the chance of that thing being pulled for whatever reason and yanking it out. It's very important to have those lines going to the wastegates, especially the bottom ones. The top ones, if they come off, we just won't make as much boost. But if the bottom ones come off, we'll basically make unlimited amount of boost, and well, the engine could blow up. These turbos are capable of probably making 45 pounds of boost, or maybe more. And that much boost in this engine will make a ton of power for a very short amount of time. And then we'd probably crack a block or something like that. So we don't want to, we don't want to do that. So those all look good now. We also got the turbo water lines installed. So we have the water cooling lines that run down to the bottom of the block there. You can't see it because there's so much stuff, but that goes to the bottom. And then we've got the other water lines on the side of the turbos here that are on those banjos, and those run over to the side of the block on a fitting that used to go to the transmission oil cooler. So both of those water lines circulate the water through the turbos and keep the turbos, the turbo center sections cooled down, because these ones are aluminum. You could get away on a car like this without running those if it was a steel center section, but we opted for the EFR, they call them super cores, so aluminum center sections, saves like 7 pounds per side. So I don't know, 15 pounds almost savings just running those, but obviously you have to run water. It's better to run water anyway. Turbos are gonna last longer. This thing will obviously be getting very hot. We are gonna tune it pretty aggressively, and we're gonna have anti-lag running, which means a ton of heat in the exhaust system. So that thing is gonna be shooting flames like crazy, which creates a lot of heat. So all of that to say, water cooling probably would have done anyway, whether it's aluminum housings or steel housings. I got another long list of stuff to do to the car. I got my order of stuff that I needed for heat shielding. So I've got some gold foil tape basically. So I'm gonna put that on these heat shields that are gonna go on the side, basically onto the valve covers to protect the valve covers, the coils, all that wiring from the heat of the headers. So they will go in here and block all of that hot stuff from all of the stuff that we don't want to get hot. So the gold foil tape basically is a heat shield and reflector, so it bounces that heat back and away. Also, it looks pretty cool. So I'm going to install this stuff on those panels, and then I've got some of that heat shield sleeve that I'm going to put on all the rest of those hoses. I've got some gold foil tape to do any other spots that you need to. And then I got this stuff that's like a silicone wrap. So on the end of those hoses where it's just cut, we'll wrap that around there and it creates a seal. So it's kind of like a tape, but it's like a rubber that sticks to itself. So there's no adhesive. So even if it gets hot, it's not going to come apart and come off like if you wrapped it with something else, any other kind of tape, electrical tape, whatever it might be, it would last for a day and then it would just fall apart. So I'm gonna start doing that, and then I can kind of clean up all of the wastegate tubing and blow-off valve tubing in the front here. So like I said, all of these are gonna get covers. So it's just gonna be kind of stealthy too. It'll be all black, and I think it's gonna look good and it's gonna work well. So I'm gonna get to work on that. That looks so much better. Nice and tidy. Everything is routed how I want it. I also put some stainless steel kind of like zip ties here, and I cut the ends down. Obviously that leaves a sharp edge, so I folded them over and put some heat shrink on there so you don't cut your hand when you're working on it. But looking good. I also got the heat shield all covered in gold foil, so those are ready to go on. I'm not gonna put those on yet because when we first get on the dyno, I wanna check some stuff. We might pull some spark plugs and just check to make sure all the cylinders look even. That's just an easy way to see if a cylinder is running a little rich or a little lean. Also, we need to move the oxygen sensors from where they are now because they're in the collector, which is before the turbos. So that means that they're gonna have back pressure under boost, and that won't work. It's gonna work there for some light load stuff and maybe getting into boost. And then once we get all the air fuel ratios sorted, then we'll move them into the down pipes or up pipes. And the reason being is that they don't want to see back pressure, but also if we put them in the down pipes, up pipes right now, then we would see a mixture of both sides and not get the accurate reading from the left side bank and the right side bank, because we have that X that joins both sides before it goes to the turbos. So basically turbos are getting a mix of all 12 cylinders all the time. So that's what we did to get the sound out of it, rather than trying to have those two separate banks. You'll hear like a pulse on one side and a pulse on the other side. This evens it out a ton. So basically you're hearing all 12 cylinders out of each side at the same time. So you get that more high pitch, real crisp sound. But the downside is that we have to move the oxygen sensors around, and but it's just for tuning really. And then other than that, we probably won't have very much fuel correction with those, because if it sees that one bank is running lean, anyway, there's 12 cylinders total. Even if it's 6 cylinders on that bank, you're only gonna really see like, oh, this one cylinder might be a little lean because of a clogged injector. So it's more of a, what would you say, like a global thing. It's overall in the engine. If it's running a little lean, those sensors will pick it up and add some more fuel all the way around, and that'll keep it safe, but we'll keep that window fairly small. And we'll just have to keep an eye on everything. Check the injectors every once in a while, make sure everything is working well. Check it with a temperature, like a heat gun on the headers, on the runners, so we can see how each one is running, and pull the spark plugs and check the spark plugs to make sure they all look the same and they all look good all the way across the board. Other than that, I think I have a few more things on the list to finish up, and they're all, like I said, small stuff that I want to get done just before we go dyno. So we've got the power steering pump. We've got heat shields for the hoses. Those are all done now. We got the 2 wiring harnesses that are coming from Greg for the sides, water catch tanks. I ordered that. Breather hoses, tightened the alternator belt. So probably tomorrow I'll have all this stuff wrapped up, and this thing will be ready to hit the dyno. So I've already made the dyno appointment. We've got Shane scheduled, and we got the dyno time scheduled. I am really looking forward to that. That is gonna tell us so many things. Obviously, what does this thing sound like high in the revs? What does it sound like under boost, under a lot of load? I mean, then basically we're ready to hit the track. So I'm looking forward to it. I know you guys are looking forward to it too, because this thing is going to scream and this thing is wild. I mean, this is probably one of, if not the craziest full ground up build that's on the internet right now. So stay tuned, guys, for that video. That's going to be coming out probably in about a week or so, maybe a week and a half. Dyno's next week. This video, yeah, give it a week and a half, 2 weeks, and you guys are going to see it. Hit the block and shred some tires. So let's go.